Anthrax attacks themselves were never mentioned, underscores the failure of the political establishment and the media establishment to address what I think is one of the most pressing issues of our time. And I truly believe in that last statement by Professor Boyle, that it's going to be a grassroots citizens effort that is going to be able to maybe get one or two politicians to begin asking questions, or the media asking questions. And it's been my experience in showing this film to audiences, and also the reaction we got from Canadian television reviewers, is when people begin to learn the facts of what's actually happening, they are outraged. And so there is a possibility that a popular movement could be born around this. I just returned today from Manhattan, Kansas, a very small community in the northern part of the state, where they're planning to build a huge facility with biosafety level 3 and biosafety level 4 laboratories. And the handful of activists there are totally demoralized because the effort has the support of the entire Kansas political establishment, from the local Chamber of Commerce through the congressional delegation, the Senate delegation, and the State House. And they asked what could possibly be done. And the only thing that I could suggest is that there is a set of regulations, an ordinance that has been passed by the Cambridge, Massachusetts City Council, because in Boston they're also planning for a huge expansion of these laboratories. And these regulations might be useful to introduce in a place like Manhattan, Kansas, and make local officials deal with the issue in a serious way. Another depressing fact and a depressing story is the fact that currently there is no non-governmental organization dedicated to fighting this biodefense boom. Until recently, that job was done by something called the Sunshine Project, a one-man outfit run by a wonderful fellow named Ed Hammond, a madman who filed something like 34,000 Freedom of Information Act requests. And he single-handedly uncovered a host of regulatory failures, safety violations, and downright accidents at institutions throughout the country, the leakage of Brucella at Texas A&M, all kinds of horrific failures to report even the most basic paper requirements that one has to file with the NIH. You know, in the current health care debate, the right wing likes to say, oh, well, look at the post office. How do you expect them to run the medical system? But on the same token, they say, trust us when it comes to biodefense. The one point I do want to make is this biodefense boom has taken place against a backdrop which says we have to do this because of the threat of bioterrorism. The only act of bioterrorism in the United States that has taken place was, if you believe the FBI, perpetrated by a U.S. Army scientist working within the U.S. defense establishment. The response to this is to create hundreds of new laboratories with thousands of more personnel, given security clearances to work with the most deadly pathogens known to man. The FBI admits that Ivans, for a long time, had psychological problems and substance abuse, including alcoholism, and kept getting his security clearances. Why we think this would not be repeated in the future is beyond me. So I'm just happy that this film festival got the film out there, and I hope people begin discussing this with their family, friends, and neighbors, and reading about it. And we go into much more detail in our book, Dead Silence, which is for sale. This 90-minute film could only outline a lot of the material that we found. The book details how this is not red state, blue state, Democratic or Republican issue. It's not even an American issue. It's a global issue. And as far as the U.S. political establishment goes, the conflicts of interest that began with the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the Reagan administration. This fellow was also the ambassador to London in the Clinton administration. Emergent Biosolutions, the company whose stock is going up because of the anthrax vaccine, in order to hold on to their contract, their exclusive contract with the U.S. government, they spent millions of dollars in lobbying fees. Their top lobbyists were the former top assistants to Dick Cheney. And in the last presidential race, one of President Obama's, or candidate Obama's, chief foreign policy advisors was a former Secretary of the Navy, Richard Danzig. Richard Danzig is today on the board of directors of a company, Human Genome Sciences, which just won a $1.8 billion contract to develop anthrax antibodies. It's a cash cow that's very wired into the highest levels of successive American administrations. So it's going to be kind of a tough fight, but let the battle begin.